When my daughter told me I had 24 hours to leave the house my husband and I had built together, I collapsed on our marble kitchen floor. 7 days later, I was sleeping on a motel bed with springs that dug into my back while she hosted a dinner party in my home. That's when I realized life isn't just a roller coaster. It's one where they remove the safety bar right before the biggest drop. If you're watching this, please subscribe and tell me where you're from. Because trust me, this story twists more than a pretzel factory on overtime. My name is Beatriz. Just 3 months ago, I was the woman everyone in our social circle envied. I had a beautiful home in the most prestigious neighborhood, closets full of designer clothes, and invitations to every important event. I was the widow of Richard Wellington, one of the most successful businessmen in our city. For 30 years, I'd built a life of elegance and respect. Then came that cold November morning. I was sipping my coffee, flipping through a magazine, planning my week. Carolina, my only daughter, my flesh and blood, walked into the kitchen clutching a folder. Her face looked different. Harder somehow. "Mom, we need to talk." I smiled at her, still unaware my world was about to shatter. "Of course, sweetheart. Is everything okay with the kids?" She didn't sit down. "I found something in Dad's safety deposit box yesterday." The way she said it made my stomach tighten. Richard had been gone for 6 months. Heart attack. No warning. "What is it?" I asked, setting down my coffee cup. "His real will. Not the one we read after the funeral." My hands began to tremble. "What are you talking about?" "We settled everything with the lawyers." Carolina slid a document across the counter. "That wasn't his final will. This is." I stared at the papers, my vision blurring. There was Richard's signature, a notary stamp, dates from just weeks before his death. As I scanned the pages, my breath caught. According to this document, the house, my home, belongs solely to Carolina, along with nearly everything else. "This can't be right," I whispered. "It's all legal, Mom. I've already confirmed it with a lawyer. Dad left you your personal belongings and a small account. Everything else comes to me." I looked up at my daughter's face, searching for any sign of the little girl I'd raised. Why would he do this? Her eyes were cold. "He had his reasons. And now I need you to leave. Script part separator equals. I stared at Carolina, certain I'd misheard. "Leave. Leave my own home." "You can't be serious," I said, my voice barely audible. "I'm giving you until tomorrow morning," she replied, checking her watch as if my homelessness was just another appointment on her calendar. "Pack whatever's specifically yours." "Carolina, this is insane. We need to discuss this rationally. There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake." Her voice cut through mine like a blade. "The house is mine now. So is the beach property, Dad's investments, and the car collection." My legs gave way, and I sank onto a kitchen stool. "What about my clothes? My jewelry? The furniture we picked out together?" "Your personal items, yes. The furniture stays." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I've transferred $10,000 to your account. That should be enough until you figure things out." $10,000. After 30 years of marriage, my life had been reduced to a pittance. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked, tears welling in my eyes. She shrugged. "You have friends, don't you? All those charity lunches and tennis matches. Surely someone will take you in." The casual cruelty in her voice stunned me. This wasn't my daughter speaking. It couldn't be. "Why are you doing this? What happened to you?" I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Dad told me everything before he died. About your arguments, how you wanted to change his will, how you threatened to leave him if he didn't put more in your name." "That's not true," I gasped. "Richard and I never." "Save it, Mom. I've seen the evidence. Dad kept records of everything." "Records? What records?" My mind raced through 30 years of marriage, searching for anything Richard might have twisted against me. "You need to leave," Carolina repeated, glancing at her phone. "I have people coming to assess the house for renovations tomorrow." Script part separator equals. People coming to renovate my house? I stood up so quickly the stool crashed to the floor. You can't do this. I can and I am. Carolina's voice was emotionless. The movers will be here at 9 tomorrow to take anything you're not taking. Movers? You've already hired movers? My voice rose to a pitch I barely recognized. Dad's been gone 6 months, Mom. I've had time to plan. Those words hit me like a physical blow. 6 months. While I grieved, while I cried myself to sleep clutching Richard's sweater, my daughter had been plotting to throw me out. What about your children? My grandchildren? Are you going to tell them you kicked their grandmother onto the street? For the first time, Carolina's mask slipped. They're at a sleepover. I didn't want them here for this. At least you have that much decency left, I spat. Her face hardened again. This isn't about decency. It's about justice. Justice? I wanted to scream. What justice could there be in making your mother homeless? But the look in Carolina's eyes, cold determination mixed with something like righteous anger, told me arguing was pointless. Whatever Richard had told her, whatever evidence he'd manufactured, she believed it completely. I spent that night packing in a daze. Each item I touched held memories. The silk blouse I wore on our anniversary trip to Venice, the pearl earrings Richard gave me when Carolina was born, photo albums documenting 30 years of what I thought was happiness. By morning, I had filled 3 suitcases and 6 boxes. My entire life, reduced to what would fit in the trunk of a taxi. Carolina didn't come downstairs as I left. She watched from the upstairs window as I struggled with my bags, as the taxi driver loaded them, as I took one last look at the home I'd never see again. In the taxi's rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of her turning away from the window. Was that satisfaction on her face? Or something else? Script part separator, The first night at the Bluebird Motel felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. The bed sagged, the air conditioner rattled like it was dying, and the walls were so thin I could hear the couple next door arguing about money until 2 a.m. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. 27 missed calls to Carolina, all sent to voicemail. I'd left messages ranging from tearful pleas to furious accusations. Nothing. Not even a text. On day 3, I called the only person I thought might help, Orlando Diaz, Richard's attorney for over 20 years. Mrs. Wellington, what a pleasant surprise, he answered, his voice warm with familiarity. Orlando, I need help, I said, my voice cracking. Carolina has thrown me out of my home. She claims Richard left a new will. Ah, he interrupted, his tone changing instantly. Yes, I'm aware of the situation. You knew about this. I felt the floor shift beneath me. Why didn't you tell me? I wasn't the one who drafted it, Orlando explained carefully. Richard came to me about it, but I advised against it. He took the matter elsewhere. But it can't be legal. We've been married 30 years. Half of everything is mine by right. The silence on the line stretched uncomfortably before Orlando spoke again. Beatrice, there are complications. Things Richard put in place. I need to see you in person. Not at my office. Somewhere private. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop the next morning. I spent the night poring over bank statements, insurance policies, anything I could access from my laptop. Most accounts were showing access denied when I tried to log in. Richard had systematically cut me out, changing passwords, removing my name. By morning, I discovered something else. My credit cards were being declined. My financial lifelines were being severed one by one. Script part separator, Orlando was 15 minutes late. When he finally rushed in, his usual polished appearance was rumpled, like he hadn't slept. He ordered coffee for both of us and leaned close. Beatrice, the situation is worse than you think, he said in a low voice. That will is just the beginning. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? He glanced around nervously before sliding a folder across the table. Richard had been moving assets for years. Setting up offshore accounts, shell companies. The house isn't even the most valuable thing. I flipped through the documents, struggling to make sense of the legal language. But why? We had a good marriage. At least I thought we did. Orlando hesitated. Richard came to me last year. He said he was worried about some of his business dealings coming to light. Things that could compromise him legally. What things? I demanded. I don't know specifics. He never told me. But he was paranoid, Beatriz. Said people might come after his assets, and he needed to protect the family. By leaving me nothing. My voice rose, drawing glances from nearby tables. By putting everything in Carolina's name, Orlando corrected. He trusted her to take care of you. I laughed bitterly. Well, that worked out beautifully. Orlando leaned closer. There's something else. A week before Richard died, he transferred $2 million to an account in Carolina's name. Money that's not mentioned anywhere in the will. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. $2 million. What for? I don't know. But whatever Richard was involved in, Carolina might be part of it now. Walking back to my motel, I felt sick. My husband had been hiding things from me. My daughter had betrayed me. And now I had 3 weeks' worth of motel money left before I'd be truly homeless. I needed answers. I needed proof. Most of all, I needed someone I could trust. That's when my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Beatriz Wellington. A woman's voice asked. Yes. Who's this? My name is Renata Delgado. I was your husband's executive assistant for 5 years. We need to talk. Script part separator I arranged to meet Renata at a small diner across town. She was already waiting when I arrived, a slim woman in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Mrs. Wellington, she said, standing to greet me. Thank you for coming. Call me Beatriz, I replied, sliding into the booth. Orlando told me Richard never had an executive assistant. A small smile crossed her face. That's because officially, I didn't exist. Your husband kept certain parts of his business, compartmentalized. My hands trembled as I reached for the water glass. What parts? The parts that made him the most money, Renata said flatly. And the parts that could have sent him to prison. For the next hour, Renata outlined a side of Richard I'd never known, a man who brokered deals with people who needed problems to disappear, who laundered money through a maze of companies, who blackmailed his way into lucrative contracts. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice barely audible. Because your daughter is continuing his work. Renata slid a phone across the table. And because of this. I pressed play on the video. It showed Richard in his office, arguing with Carolina. Eu promised me contro. She shouted. When the time is right, Richard replied. There are loose ends to tie up. Like Mom. Carolina's voice dripped with contempt. Richard's response froze my blood. Your mother knows nothing. And it's better that way. If things go sideways, she needs to be clear of it all. And me. Carolina demande. You're my daughter. You have my instincts. Beatriz was always too. He paused, searching for the word, ethical. The video ended. I stared at the blank screen, struggling to breathe. When was this? Eve spitted. 3 weeks before he died, Renata said. Beatriz, there's more. The heart attack that killed Richard. I don't think it was natural. Script part separator My blood ran cold. What are you saying? Renata lowered her voice. 2 days before Richard died, he discovered someone had accessed his private files, accounts he kept hidden even from Carolina. He was furious, paranoid. Told me to change all the security protocols immediately. You think someone murdered him? The word felt impossible to say. I think someone made sure he couldn't talk. And now that same person might come after you. I glanced around the diner, suddenly aware of every stranger. But why would anyone target me? I didn't know anything. Renata leaned forward. Because of the Amsterdam account. The what? Richard opened it 15 years ago. It's where the real money is, nearly $40 million. And you're the only one who can access it. That's impossible, I protested. I've never heard of any Amsterdam account. You don't need to know about it. The access code is tied to something only you would know. She tapped her fingers on the table. Richard was paranoid, but he was also sentimental. Whatever the key is, it's something meaningful between you two. My head is spun. $40 million that only I could access? A husband I apparently never really knew? A daughter who might be involved in criminal activity? Renata, inide pro fofel diz. Not just your word. She nodded, reaching into her bag. I brought copies of everything I have. But be careful. These people don't mess around. As she handed me the envelope, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and went pale. We need to leave. Now. She threw cash on the table, grabbing my arm. What is wrong? Someone just broke into my apartment. They know we're meeting. We rushed out the back door just as a black SUV pulled up to the front of the diner. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of the driver, Carolina's husband, Michael. For the next 3 days, I stayed in Renata's friend's empty vacation cabin, poring over the documents she'd given me. Bank statements, encrypted emails, photos of Richard with people I'd never seen before, including several with a man named Victor Kraus, a developer with rumored mob connections. On the 4th morning, I woke to breaking news on the local station. Renata Delgado had been found dead in her car, an apparent suicide. Script part separator, I knew immediately it wasn't suicide. Renata had been silenced. With shaking hands, I gathered the documents and shoved them into my bag. I needed somewhere safe, somewhere no one would think to look for me. And I needed legal help that wasn't connected to Richard. 3 hours later, I sat across from Diana Chen, a hard-nosed attorney who specialized in high-conflict divorces and estate disputes. Let me get this straight, she said after I'd explained everything. Your husband was potentially involved in criminal activity, your daughter has evicted you from your home, and now someone has murdered the only person who was helping you? I nodded, fighting back tears. And somewhere, there's $40 million only you can access, if you can figure out the code. That's the situation, I confirmed. Diana sat back, tapping her pen against her legal pad. Fast fins fast. We file an emergency petition contesting the will. That gets us into court within 14 days. Then we request full financial disclosure, everything your husband and daughter have touched in the past 5 years. Carolina will fight it. Of course she will, Diana smiled thinly. That's what I'm counting on. The harder she fights, the more suspicious it looks. That afternoon, I checked into a small bed and breakfast under my maiden name. The innkeeper barely glanced at me, just another middle-aged woman passing through. In my room, I spread out Richard's and my personal calendar from the year before he died. Every dinner, every trip, every anniversary noted in my careful handwriting. Somewhere in these pages was a clue to what Richard had used as my access code. My phone rang, an unknown number. Hello, Mom. Carolina's voice was tight. What have you done? What do you mean? The court filing. Contesting Dad's will. You're making a mistake. The mistake was trusting either of you, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. You don't understand what you're getting into, she hissed. Drop this now, or what? You'll throw me out of my home? Take my money. Oh wait, you've already done that. A pause. Then, in a lower voice, they're watching me. I can't talk freely. Just stop digging. The line went dead. Script part separator, I stared at my phone, replaying Carolina's words. They're watching me. Who was watching her? The same people who had Renata killed? My first instinct was to call her back, but Diana's warning echoed in my head. Don't contact Carolina directly again. Everything goes through me now. The next morning, I woke to pounding on my door. Mrs. Wellington. Police. We need to speak with you. 2 officers stood in the hallway, faces grim. What's this about? I asked, heart hammering. There's been a break-in at your daughter's home. Several items were stolen, including family documents. She seems to think you might be involved. I almost laughed. I'm being accused of breaking into my own house? Just need to ask your whereabouts last night between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Right here. The innkeeper saw me come in around 9. I haven't left. They took notes, looking skeptical. After they left, I called Diana. It's starting, she said. Carolina's getting desperate. The court date is set for next Monday, 9 days from now. 9 days? My voice cracked. I don't have enough money to stay here that long. I've been thinking about that. I have a friend who needs a house sitter for the next 2 weeks. Nothing fancy, but it's safe. That afternoon, I moved into a modest bungalow in a quiet neighborhood. For the first time since being evicted, I slept in a real bed. The next morning, I found an envelope on the kitchen table that hadn't been there the night before. Inside was a flash drive and a note in unfamiliar handwriting. Ours final insurance policy. Use wisely. Someone had been in the house while I slept. My hands trembled as I plugged the drive into my laptop. The files were organized by year, financial records going back a decade. And videos. Dozens of them. Richard's secret recordings of meetings with business associates, politicians, and people whose faces made my blood run cold. In one, dated just 3 months before his death, Richard sat across from Victor Krauss and Carolina. The Wellington legacy is secure, Richard said, raising his glass. To family business. Script part separator, I watched the video 3 times, unable to process what I was seeing. My daughter wasn't just aware of Richard's dealings, she was actively involved. And from the way she spoke, she had been for years. Phone in hand, I started to call Diana, then stopped. This evidence could implicate Carolina in serious crimes. As angry as I was, could I really send my own daughter to prison? The doorbell rang, startling me so badly I dropped my phone. Through the peephole, I saw Michael, Carolina's husband, standing on the porch. I know you're in there, Beatrice, he called. We need to talk. My instinct screamed danger, but I needed answers. I opened the door a crack, chain still latched. What do you want, Michael? To help you, he said, his usual arrogance replaced with something like fear. Carolina doesn't know I'm here. Why should I trust you? Because I found out what they're planning. If you go to court on Monday, you won't make it there alive. I let him in, keeping my distance. Michael looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. You've seen the videos, haven't you? He asked, glancing at my laptop. I nodded. Then you know what Richard was involved in. What he dragged Carolina into. He paced the small living room. It started when she was in college. Richard used her as a front for some of his shadier deals. By the time I met her, she was in too deep. And you? He laughed bitterly. I was convenient. Good family, clean reputation. The perfect cover. Script part separator, I sat down, trying to process this new information. So the will, the eviction, that was all part of some larger plan. Michael nodded grimly. Richard was being investigated. He needed to move assets quickly, make it look like everything went to Carolina. The plan was for her to protect you, keep you comfortable, but what? After he died, Victor Krauss stepped in. He convinced Carolina you knew more than you did, that you were a liability. Is he the one who had Renata killed? Michael looked away. I don't know for sure, but probably. Krauss doesn't leave loose ends. And now I'm a loose end, I said, my mouth dry. The court hearing on Monday is a trap. If you show up, they'll take care of you afterward. If you don't show, the judge dismisses your case, and everything stays with Carolina, which means Krauss controls it all. I studied Michael's face, searching for deception. Why are you telling me this? Why now? He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo of his children, my grandchildren, at the beach. They deserve better than this. And Carolina isn't the woman I married anymore. Something broke in her when Richard died. I felt tears welling up. She was such a sweet girl. How did this happen? Richard happened, Michael said bitterly. He was poison. Always had been. So what do I do now? Michael leaned forward. You find the Amsterdam account. That's what Krauss is really after. The money, the offshore records, it's all there. But I don't know how to access it. Yes, you do. Michael's eyes locked with mine. Richard told Carolina it was the most important date in your life together. One that changed everything. Script part separator, I stared at Michael, my mind racing through 30 years of memories. The most important date. Our wedding. Carolina's birth. No, those were too obvious. Then it hit me. March 16th, 1989. The day we lost our son. Andrew had been stillborn at 7 months. We never talked about it publicly. I'd had complications, and the doctors said I couldn't have more children. A year later, we adopted Carolina. That has to be it, I whispered. Michael nodded. Find the account before Monday. It's your only leverage. After he left, I pulled out my laptop and searched for banks in Amsterdam. There were dozens. How would I even begin? That's when I remembered the safety deposit box. Richard and I had one at First National that I hadn't checked since his death. The key was still in my jewelry pouch, one of the few things I'd managed to grab before Carolina evicted me. The next morning, I stood in a private viewing room at the bank, opening the box with trembling hands. Inside was the usual, some jewelry, our passports, birth certificates, and a single business card, Zurich National Trust, Amsterdam. Handwritten on the back, 03161989. I felt cold all over. He had used our deepest trauma as a security code. On my way out of the bank, I nearly collided with Orlando. Beatriz! He exclaimed, looking genuinely surprised. What are you doing here? Just checking some old documents, I lied, clutching my purse where I'd hidden the card. His eyes narrowed slightly. I've been trying to reach you. The court date is approaching, and I think you should reconsider. Why? Because someone plans to have me killed afterward? His face registered shock, real or feigned, I couldn't tell. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. I think you do. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Tell Kraus I know everything. And I've made arrangements. If anything happens to me, the evidence goes public. Orlando's face went ashen. Beatriz, you're making a terrible mistake. No, ismilat kuldli. Richard made the mistake. Tell Carolina I'll see her in court. Script part separator, I walked away from Orlando, forcing myself not to run, to keep my pace steady despite my pounding heart. Once in my rental car, I drove straight to a public library, found a private computer terminal, and logged into my email. With shaking hands, I created a message with attachments, copies of everything on the flash drive, and scheduled it to send automatically to the FBI, the district attorney, and 3 major newspapers in 72 hours. Insurance policy in place, I called a number I'd found for Zurich National Trust. I need to access an account, I said, giving them the numbers from the card. The woman on the phone was efficient and dispassionate. Voice verification required. Please state the passphrase. Passphrase. Richard hadn't left a passphrase. My mind raced. I don't know the passphrase, I admitted. Then I cannot help you, madam. Goodbye. Wait. I cried. The account was set up by Richard Wellington. I'm his wife, Beatriz. A pause. 1 moment, please. After an excruciating minute, she returned. Mrs. Wellington, for security purposes, I need you to answer 3 questions. The questions were personal, details only I would know. Where Richard proposed. The name of our first pet. The hospital where we lost Andrew. My voice broke on the last answer. Thank you, Mrs. Wellington. You now have access to account number 3366792. Would you like the current balance? Yes, I whispered. 42,800,000 euros. My knees nearly gave out. It was real. I need to transfer these funds, I said. Of course. We'll need biometric verification for that. Our protocols require an in-person visit. I closed my eyes. I'd need to go to Amsterdam. But the court date was in 4 days. Is there any other option? I asked desperately. There is one alternative. Mr. Wellington established a secondary verification protocol, a video call with dual authentication from our Zurich office. But we would need 48 hours to arrange it. That would be cutting it close, the day before court. But it was my only choice. Set it up, I said. And one more thing, has anyone else attempted to access this account recently? Yes, she replied. 3 attempts in the past week. All unsuccessful. Kraus was getting desperate. As I left the library, my phone rang. Diana. Change of plans, she said urgently. The hearing's been moved up. We're on for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. My heart nearly stopped. Tomorrow. But my video call with the bank wasn't until Saturday. I can't make it tomorrow, I told Diana. I need more time. You don't have more time, she snapped. They've accelerated everything. Be at the courthouse by 8:30 or we forfeit. I paced my borrowed living room until dawn, weighing impossible options. Without access to the Amsterdam account, I had no leverage. But I did have the videos, evidence that could send Carolina, Kraus, and possibly even Orlando to prison. Could I really do that to my own daughter? As the sun rose, I made my decision. The courtroom was packed. Carolina sat with her legal team, looking confident but strained. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away. Michael sat behind her, his face unreadable. The judge called us to order. Diana presented our case brilliantly, arguing that Richard's final will had been created under duress, that I had been systematically excluded from assets I'd helped build over 30 years. Then it was Carolina's attorney's turn. He painted me as a bitter, unstable woman creating conspiracy theories to challenge a perfectly valid will. Just as he finished, the courtroom doors opened. A team of FBI agents entered, followed by Victor Kraus in handcuffs. The judge banged his gavel as chaos erupted. Order. What is the meaning of this? The lead agent stepped forward. Your Honor, we're arresting Mr. Kraus on multiple charges including money laundering, extortion, and conspiracy to commit murder. We have evidence relevant to this case. I turned to Diana in shock. Did you do this? She shook her head, equally confused. Then I saw Michael, slipping a phone back into his pocket. He gave me the smallest nod. Later, as the courtroom cleared, Carolina approached me, tears streaming down her face. You knew, didn't you? That Michael was working with the FBI all along? I took her hands in mine. I knew my daughter was still in there somewhere. Michael explained everything. How Kraus threatened our grandchildren if she didn't cooperate. How you tried to protect me by staying away. Mom, I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I wanted to tell you. Every day I wanted to tell you. I pulled her into my arms, feeling her body shake with sobs. We have a lot to rebuild, I whispered. But we'll do it together. 3 months later, I moved back into my home. Not as the same woman who'd been evicted. I was stronger now, wiser. The Amsterdam account was divided, half to charity, the rest in trust for my grandchildren's future. Carolina and I went to therapy together twice a week, slowly rebuilding what Richard had broken. Sometimes when I look at old photos of Richard, I wonder if I ever really knew him at all. But then I look at my daughter, at the goodness that survived despite his poison, and I know some truths don't need bank accounts to verify them. When my daughter told me I had 24 hours to leave our home, I thought my life was over. Now I know it was just beginning.